welcome to this episode of Experts on Purpose. The special guest we have today is Howard Berg. Howard is the world's fastest reader. He has a Guinness record back in 1990, and nobody has ever broken that record. He's also a best-selling author and a global trainer with over 2,000 media appearances. Hello, Howard. Welcome to Experts on Purpose.
Well, thank you for having me.
I am super thrilled to have the person who is the fastest reader in the world on my show. It's indeed a privilege for me.
Oh, thank you. I feel likewise. I'm always happy to help people.
Thanks, Howard. So, how did it all begin? Like from childhood, were you a voracious reader? How did you identify that reading is your super skill?
Well, when I was younger, I lived in the projects in Brooklyn, and there were a lot of gangs. It was very violent, a lot of violent gangs. And I found the safest place in my neighborhood was the library. Gang kids would rather be dead than caught in the library. So I read a lot. I had college reading when I was 11. So I went to college at 17 to major in biology. I went to the State University of New York, Binghamton, which is the top state college in New York. I majored in biology. In my junior year, the second half, I get interested in the brain, and I decided to be a psychobiologist, not a psychotic biologist. That's Frankenstein. Psychobiologist is the biology of behavior. So I told the dean, he looked at me and said, "You're a second-term junior. You've had 0 psych courses. You'll have to do the 4-year program in 1 year and finish bio. You'll have to take 6 science courses, 2 4-hour labs. Lab reports took 16 hours on a slide rule. So it was 40 hours of lab, 18 credits of science, and I had 3 jobs. I was working 18 hours a week."
Oh my God, didn't that scare you?
No. He looked at me and he said, "You're not smart enough." And that's when I realized they never taught me how to learn. They tell you what to learn and why to learn, but not what to do. You hear a song on the radio once, you know it your whole life. And then you read the 7 habits of highly effective people, and the next day you don't know any habits. I said, there has to be a way to learn things that matter, the way you learn songs. There was. I got up to 80 pages a minute. I did the psych program in 1 year. I took the graduate record exam, the SAT for graduate school in biology. So I reviewed books, like 48 books in 3 nights, like biochemistry, cell physiology, genetics, plant systematics, not light reading. And I took the test. I got 3 questions wrong, so I got an 800. I was in the 99th percentile in the world. Wow. And then I wondered if it was me or the system. So I got kids, 11 to 15-year-old kids, taught them the system. They did a 30-chapter book in lifelong developmental psych, a sophomore course, in 1 week. And then they took the AP test and passed it, 15 of 18. But I was going to say one other thing affected me. After I got out of college, I was interested in consciousness. So I was a student of Yogi Bhajan. I studied all 7 schools of yoga. I took Shakti with Muktananda.
Wow.
I studied transcendental meditation. And so India has really had a big impact on me. Every time I'm on a TV show, I would have to read really fast. Like I was on one show, I had to read 1,500 pages in 50 minutes and do an analysis. The healthcare bill was this many pages. So I meditate. And I'm going to say that it's nice to be able to give something back to India because it's done a lot for me as well.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, actually. So you were in a position where you had to do a lot of reading so that you can get that degree. And back then you were not as fast as what you later on became, right? But you added a lot of practices like yoga and meditation and so many other things, which helped you create your unique system. Am I right?
That's correct. Most people who do this, they're teachers. And as you know, schools don't work real well anymore. So I came from a different position. I was learning about how the brain works. So I'm saying, well, we know how the brain works. This is what we want to do. How do we use what the brain does to learn?
Right.
And I started doing most speed reading programs about reading fast. That's a big mistake. Nobody wants to read fast. Nobody. You want to learn fast. Exactly. You want to understand. So what I did was different. Instead of just doing hands, which is what they all do, I also did psychology, and this is how your brain makes sense out of what you read. And
Right.
then here's how you understand things when you're confused. And here's what you're supposed to look for. And here's
Mm.
how to remember it. And here's how to be in the right frame of mind to use it. For example, if I teach you to drive and you're ready for your road test and you
Hmm.
fail, I said, why did you fail the test? You're a good driver. I got nervous. It was a test. That's an emotional intelligence problem. What if I didn't just teach you to drive, but how to stay calm
Mm.
during the test? How many more people would graduate? So how many students get nervous taking tests, or adults speaking in public? So they could study all they want, but they don't remember anything because they get nervous. So that's where the yoga and a lot of other things come in, to stay
Right.
centered and calm and not react.
Right.
And when you combine all of that, emotional intelligence, study skills, memory skills, learning skills, and speed reading, now it's like a Swiss Army knife, and not
Hmm.
just one size fits all. It adjusts to the learner, to their learning style, and different subjects are different.
Right.
Something you know real well, you may not read the same way as something you never heard of before, but
Right.
it's the right way for you.
Very well said, Howard, because being a fast reader makes no sense if you cannot be a fast learner. That's what we all need. So, you have this fantastic website called berglearning.com. So, those of you who are watching and listening, go check out berglearning.com because there are some amazing resources for you to become a fast learner. So, at what stage, Howard, did you decide that you want to make this your career? You started your career with psychobiology, but did you even pursue a career in that side, or did you immediately realize that teaching others can make you feel more fulfilled than doing some biology related stuff?
Well, here's what happened. I wanted to get a PhD. And then I found out for every 1,000 PhDs in psychobiology, there were two jobs.
My
So that's
God.
998 people don't get a job, two do. And I'm thinking, okay, if so many people want the job, they're not going to pay you anything, because
Hmm.
there's going to be someone out of that 1,000 people who'll take it for next to nothing. So
Right.
you're going to go to school for 6 years, spend a couple $100,000, and then have absolutely no chance of getting a job. Is that really what you want to do? And I said, no. And then I started thinking, well, how can I use what I learned to make a living? So I
Hmm.
started off, I was a teacher. I taught in school in New York, and I saw how badly it worked. I worked in a school where 2% graduated, 98% did.
Oh my
And I
God.
said to the principal, let me help. I'm the fastest reader in the world. I could teach them how to learn. Have more students graduate. He said, it's not in the curriculum. I said, you have a 98% failure rate. What could I do to ruin your numbers? 2% can graduate without a teacher. So they wouldn't let me help, and I quit because I wasn't going to make students stupid. I wanted to help them.
Hmm.
And I started my own school, and I wrote books, and I did programs, and I enjoy it. I think of it as Dharma. You're familiar with the concept of Dharma. Most Americans aren't, but you're in India, so you should
Right.
know. I think when you read 80 pages a minute, it's a gift. It's not just what you do. It's like you've been given it's like
Hmm.
a city. It's a special power.
So true.
And is it about you? We're using it to help people. And I thought about it. I said, it isn't about me. Me doing it, it's a dog and pony show. You
Hmm.
doing it changes the world. So I'm trying to get millions and millions of people trained on how to do this. Because we have lots of problems we need solutions to. I can't fix every problem, but there are smart people I can make smarter,
Hmm.
and they can find the answers because they learned how to learn better and understand better, and that makes a big difference. So that's how I see it. I see it as a obligation. You've been given something special. You're supposed to do something good with it to make a world that's better than you found it. And that's how I go about doing what I do. I'm a Rotary president, and so I do a lot of volunteer work with poor people
Hmm.
because they can't afford to pay me.
Right.
There's no way they're going to pay me. So I do stuff for them also, because it's important to give back, not just to take.
Hmm. Very well said, Howard. I think you've actually summarized whatever I'm trying to say in Experts on Purpose, because every one of us have these special gifts, these unique geniuses, but not all of us recognize them. And even if we do not value them enough that we can believe that we can teach others and help the world. But you did that, and you've been doing it for so many years, and that's an amazing thing. And at what point did you realize that it's nice thing to make a Guinness Book of World Records in 1990, if I'm not wrong? You set that record of reading 25,000 words in a minute, and till today, nobody has
No,
broken the record. So,
no.
how did that planning and that execution of getting that record happen?
Actually, I was with a friend who was a marketer, and he said, you're really fast. You might be the fastest in the world. And to get in Guinness, you have to prove that you have something. Most
Right.
people send a TV show or a newspaper clipping. One, I had 10. I was on 5 shows in 5 cities. They all tested me, and
Hmm.
5 newspapers in 5 other cities. And they said they've never had anyone with 10. They usually get 1, maybe 2. So I was able to prove it. But for me, getting the Guinness Book is good. It's a hook, marketing hook. People want to talk to me. People want to
Hmm.
interview me. And that's great because I get to meet people. But the real benefit is then I can show people things they can do and help them.
Right.
And so I see it more like a marketing thing that helps me to get recognized,
Yeah.
but then use that to do something good,
Hmm.
to not make it about me, but make it about them. In fact, tonight we have some time. I'll give some tips like how to read and how to remember and how to learn. So people can actually start doing it and see that not only does he know what he's doing, he can teach it.
Absolutely. This is also a different way of looking at things. A lot of times we do things like when we want to get an award or be recognized by some board of something for ourselves, but more than us, once we have that recognition, others are going to trust our skills, and we that way we'll be able to help a lot more people. Right.
Exactly. If I'm with children, they don't want to listen to a professor. They're children. But I was on television with Justin Timberlake and Peyton Manning, and you show them the video. Or I was in the Guinness Book of World Records. They listen because,
Right.
oh, he's interesting, and that's great. I get a chance to teach them something interesting, but then I can help them because they'll listen to me. So to me, it gets me in front of audiences and people, but my motive isn't to be in front of them to talk about me.
Hmm.
It's about helping them. And that's why I like it, because it gives me opportunities to do that.
Right. Well, the one thing that I noticed is you just mentioned that around the time of your Guinness Book of World Records, you had been on 10 shows. But today, over the last 3 decades, you've been on more than 1,100 radio and TV programs.
It's closer to 2000 now because I
Now,
keep doing them. That was an
yeah,
older bio, but yeah, it's true. I was on about 2000 shows. And if you count podcasts, it's probably closer to 3000. But to me, again, it makes me feel like I'm doing something useful to help.
Hmm,
I
right.
enjoy it. I'm not going to say I don't enjoy it. I do enjoy it, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with enjoying what you do if
Hmm,
it makes other people's lives better at the same time.
right. That's also a very important trait, because a lot of people, after being on the top of their game for many years, become very complacent. They feel that if somebody is going to Google the fastest reader in the world, I'm anyway going to pop up in the results. So why bother going on these new shows like Experts on Purpose? Why waste my time? But then you are, even till date, actively spreading your message through these media appearances, and that can touch so many lives, because people who've not heard about you so far, and there are billions of people out there who might have still not heard about your skill, would probably get get in touch with you and start learning these important things. So now let me
Exactly.
get to the main question. Could you give some
Sure.
tips on how
Yes.
one can become a fast reader?
Not only a tip, I'll make you a fast reader. How's that's a little better, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So first tip, this is something all reading programs do, and then I'll show you what's different. So find a book you've read, preferably nonfiction. Since you know what's in it, There's only one reason you're confused. You're going too fast because you understand it already.
Yeah.
So read for a minute, have a timer, read for a minute, and don't do anything special. Read the way you normally would read for a
I'll do that.
minute.
Sure.
And when the clock, we don't have to do it right now, but when the clock rings, take a pen or a pencil and mark off where you finished. Now for the magic. So now you know how fast you read the minute. Now go to the second chapter. Take your hand and go one line at a time, and your eye follows your hand. And this is the important part, as fast as you can understand. So keep going faster and faster and faster. And at some point, you say, I don't understand anymore. That's when it got too fast because you already know what's in the book.
Right.
Slow down just enough so that you understand again. And for 5 minutes, go as fast as you can, one line at a time, one line at a time. Go back to the first chapter. Take your timer. Read for a minute with your hand as fast as you can read. And that little mark that you put in, you'll go 20 to 40% further doing that one
Oh,
change.
wow.
That will make you 20 to 40%. Now, that's step one. And that's what most of these programs do. But here's the problem. Reading is not learning. If reading was learning, everyone who went to school who read the book would get an A. That never happens. So what is learning? Most people think, you say to a child, how did you study? Yeah, I studied for 5 hours. I read 400 pages. No, I did a graduate course in 7 hours. It was a 5-month course. I read the book 4 times and I took the EOP test. And the test was 6 hours. I finished in 50 minutes. I got a B plus. And why didn't you get an A? I didn't need an A. I needed the C minus. I needed the credits. The credits. I got the credits in 7 hours and 50 minutes with a B plus, much better than a C minus. So what's important is, do you understand it? Can you use it when you need it? That's learning, not how fast you read and not what you read. So how do we comprehend text? I'll show that. That's my next tip.
All
One of
right.
the key elements in comprehension, it's called schema. Rather than tell you what it is, I'll demonstrate it. I'm going to read a passage that has no schema. You'll have no idea what I'm talking about. Then I'm going to read it a second time with a title, one word that has schema, and instantly it makes total sense. Watch. This is the schemaless text. This is an easy thing to do. If possible, you could do it at home, but you could always go someplace else if it's necessary. Beware of overdoing it. This is a major mistake and may cost you quite a bit of money. You have any idea what I'm talking about? No. I'm going to read it again. I'm going to put a title on that has schema, and instantly you'll know exactly what I'm saying.
Sure.
Laundry. This is an easy thing to do. If possible, you could do it at home, but you could always go someplace else if it's necessary. Beware of overdoing it. This could be a major mistake and cost you quite a bit of money. Are you confused now? No. So I'm teaching people where the clues are that make the meaning pop on the page. So you're not just going faster, you know what you're looking for to make it make sense. So even very technical material like law or medicine or chemistry can be read very quickly with very, very good understanding, because you're not just using mechanics, which is what everyone does, but how the brain learns.
Right.
And you're aware of it, and you know what to look for, and you know where to look for it. Now you're learning, you're not just reading fast.
This makes so much sense. And I'm a person who works with authors all the time. And this could be a great tip that I can give to authors also, because some people just have this habit of writing an entire chapter with just one chapter title without having multiple schemas, embedded throughout the chapter. But if they could break it down into all these smaller topics, it's going to be so much easier for the reader, right?
You're smart. That's I teach writing. And that's exactly right. Reading is input, writing is output. So if you understand what the brain is looking for to make it easy to understand, now when you write, you make sure it's there. So when
Yeah.
people read what you wrote, it's easy to understand. And they're not like, what did you just say? I don't understand it. I wrote my last book in 5 hours and it went #1 on Amazon the next day. So I actually teach how to eliminate writer's block so you could write a book in a day instead of
Fantastic.
taking a year.
Right. Amazing. So, when you would have started teaching all of this, I'm sure your methodology would have been offline, where you meet people in person in a seminar hall and things like that. At what stage did you migrate to the online platforms?
That's a really good question. Well, you're correct. When I started, there was no internet. Well, there was modems, and you had to dial on the phone, and basically you could send a letter, maybe, or if they had like a bulletin board, you could download somebody's idea, but it was nothing like it is today. Nothing like
Right.
that. Well, I was involved with computers very early on. When I was a science major, I was on mainframe computers in the late 60s, early 70s. And I got my first laptop in 1984 before that was the CPM. If you remember the PET, the Commodore, the PET, and thing. That I had a K-Pro. Those were the big computers at the time. There was CPM, much
Hmm.
harder to use. You
Right.
pretty much had to write a little program just to write a letter. But it migrated over time to Windows, and even
Hmm.
Windows when it first started wasn't that friendly. It was just better than CPM. And then
Hmm.
eventually, I mean, I've been through every iteration from Windows 1 to Windows 10. And I read a lot, as you can see,
Yeah.
and I stay on top of things. When I'm seeing a change that's going to impact me, I read. I'll be honest with you, I read to learn things. I don't like to read, I like to
Hmm.
learn. So if I read 10 books in 3 hours, which I can do, I learn whatever it is that's happening and I know what to do. I
Hmm.
had an 84-year-old read 3 books in 3 hours the day after I taught her. She was 84. So when
Wow.
people say, I'm too old, I'm 40 years old. No, she's 84. If she can do it, you can do it. I had a 92-year-old read 100% faster in 4 hours. It's not hard,
Hmm.
easy. And for me, it's about reading books that can help me be more successful, make more money in my business, do a better job when I work with people. That's what I'm looking for. Like I learned video in 3 hours. I learned Photoshop in three. I read 10 books. Photoshop in 3 hours. I learned photography in 3 hours. Was I a professional? No, but I learned enough for what I needed to do in my business to keep my business ahead of everybody else.
Right.
And in today's economy, which is based on information, your ability to learn fast is not a luxury. Either you're doing it or your competition will do it and beat you. It's
Hmm.
not a choice. Think of Blockbuster, biggest movie chain in the world. How did they get so big? They bought trainloads of
Hmm.
discs and had thousands and thousands and thousands of stores. And they could sell those things and rent them cheaper than anybody and make money. Till someone said, we don't need a store, we'll do it in the mail. They're
Hmm.
bankrupt. They kept doing something that didn't work anymore. They went
Right.
bankrupt. So what worked yesterday that made you rich tomorrow may not work. If you make typewriters, I don't think you're having a very good career right now. Okay, if you make reel-to-reel tape recorders, you're not doing real well right now.
Yeah.
Things keep changing. The people who are successful are smart enough to change fast, to keep up with the changes. How are you going to do that? More is printed in a week than all human history through the year 1800. And most people read 200 words a minute. There's no way to keep up. So
Hmm.
they try their best, but it isn't good enough. What I teach them is how to keep up so they can be ahead of the competition and be more successful.
Right. So at berglearning.com, I found some amazing online courses. And what immediately struck me was you had three different editions of the course, one for professionals, one for students, and another for kids. And that's
For
also,
kids.
yeah, and that's also something unique because a lot of entrepreneurs say that I know whom I'm going to serve. It's just this one ideal target client, and whatever I do is only going to be for that one client. But you have taken that one skill and you have diversified and customized to suit different types of consumers, right?
Right.
So would you like to
That's
tell a
right.
little bit about that and how did that happen?
Everybody has different problems at different ages. Let's say I'm doing speaking. Am I going to tell 85-year-olds they're going to get higher SAT scores? Do
No.
they care? Do I tell a 16-year-old getting ready to take the SAT they're not going to have problems remembering things when they're 85? How many 16-year-olds are worrying about how they'll be at 85? So the solution's the same. Reading is reading. Memory
Hmm.
is memory. Studying is studying. What changes is what you read. Kids, they read they read bio books, they read history books. Adults read marketing books, they read spreadsheets. Seniors might read a novel. But how you read it, how you remember it, that's the same. What's
Hmm.
different is what you'll do with it. So you can't teach it the same way to everybody. You have to teach it in terms of what are they going to do with it? What do they read? What do they need to know? What's their game? What's the benefit to them? And the benefits for a business person and a 10-year-old are not the same. So when you're teaching it, explaining it with things that make sense to that person that they'll actually make use of. So I'm not teaching a CEO how to read a novel. I'll teach it to a student,
Yeah.
and I'm not teaching a student how to read a spreadsheet, but I'll teach it to a CEO. So even though the skills are very similar, they're not the same for each group. And by
Hmm.
targeting each group separately, it's more interesting to them because it's talking about a problem they have,
Yeah.
not something someone else has. Now, the solution's the same, but they don't have the same problem. And so you can't teach children the same thing you teach business people, even though the strategies aren't that different. Plus, you have to speak differently to a child than you
Hmm.
would to an adult. If you're working with a 7-year old, you don't talk to them like they're 30 years old. They won't know what you're telling them and
Right.
they'll get bored and frustrated. So you have to adjust for different audiences. That's why I have different niches.
Right. And you've also noticed that people across all ages are able to get this skill, right? So it's not age
Yes,
specific at
yes.
all.
From third grade on, the most of my students start in sixth grade, but I've had third graders who were very smart. But the memory skills that can start before kindergarten. You
Hmm.
could before they learn the letters and how to pronounce them. You teach them how to remember what they're learning. And by the way, no, we're in India, and my course is in 109 languages, including
Yeah.
Hindi. So some of the
Phenomenal.
people listening are more comfortable in Hindi than in English.
Hmm.
Although my experience is most people from India are very fluent in English. Most people, not everyone, but
Yeah.
the majority, certainly most of the business people in college. But there are a substantial number who will be more comfortable in Hindi than
Yeah.
in English. And so it's in Hindi too.
That's amazing. And another thing that I've noticed, which instantly increases the credibility of your courses, is that you're a partner for Google for Education. So
Yes,
there could be a lot of course creators and experts who want to create their courses listening to this. So how does one get in touch with Google and get that extra, validation?
I have someone in my business that specializes in it. I don't know everything. I think part of being smart is knowing you don't know everything and
Right.
finding people who are better at things you're not good at to do what you need to get done. Um, and that's the best way you can run a business. What makes you good at your business can make you bad at certain things. For example, General Patton. Good
Hmm.
general, would you want to be married to him? Would you want to have him as a father? He'd probably be very difficult to live with. But if there's a war and you need someone to win, he's the guy you want to have at the front. He's
Yeah.
someone who's going to make sure that you win. Okay. But when you're married, is that who you want? If that's the person that's your parent, is that an easy parent? So what makes you good at something can make you bad at something else. And so all of us are good at some things, but not so good at some other things.
Hmm.
So if you're smart, you don't try to be good at everything. You try to be really good at what you're really good at, know a little more than on other things, but find people who are smarter than you in those things and hire them and let them
Right.
do what they do and they do their magic. And that's
Mhm.
how we got this done. I have, in fact, the person I'm working with is from India. He's a young
Okay.
Indian man. And I have a lot of respect for Indians. I know they're a very intelligent group of people. They've I come from a Jewish background. One of the things I've noticed, the
Mhm.
Jews and the Indians put a very high value on learning and
Yeah.
education. Not everyone does, you know that. It's not true in every country and it's not true in
Mm.
every culture. But an Indian parent will work 6 jobs to put their child through school. They will make sure that child gets an education that doesn't matter how hard they have to work. And that's what Jewish parents do. Same
Right.
thing. And so I see a lot of similarities in our two cultures in that area of learning and education are very, very important. And that's one of the things I love about India. And I expect in the next 20 years, India is going to pass China and it's
Mm.
going to pass America and be the number one economy. You're not there yet, but you're on a trajectory. If you look at the numbers and you look what's happening, you're on a very good path. I'm not positive that's going to happen, but I'm confident that if you continue doing what you're doing now,
Mm.
that's what will happen. And it probably will happen.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. So, Howard, what would be your final word of advice for all those experts out there who are really playing small with their expertise and not really using their expertise to play a big game?
You get what you visualize. If you see yourself as small, then that's what you are. If you think big, expand your vision, have faith, and more importantly, learn what you need to know to do it. You have to have a plan. You don't reinvent the wheel. You don't start from zero. Somebody is probably doing what you want to do and doing it really well. They wrote a book, read it. And if 10 people wrote a book, read 10 books because 10 people tell you what works. And if
Right.
it worked for them, it'll work for you. And another very, very important part if you're in business, I don't care what business it is, you must learn business, not just what you do. How do you get customers?
Right.
How do you advertise? How do you treat people? Most businesses that fail don't fail because you can't do the job. They fail because you have nobody to work for. You could
Mm.
be the best surgeon in the world, but without patience, you're broke. And so everybody who's an expert, and a lot of them hate business, but if you hate it that much, find someone who doesn't and hire them to run it for you. But don't ignore the fact the only way you're going to reach the big picture,
Hmm.
start making mega money, start being super successful, you've got to learn the skills that help you achieve that. It's not a magic trick. Find people who are doing it, find out how they did it, and do what they did.
Right.
And one last thing, the questions you ask determine the answers you get. If you say, "Why am I an idiot?" you'll find out. Your brain said, "Well, there's a lot of reasons you're a real idiot." What if you said, "How could I be more successful?" You'd find that out. You have to be very careful what you say to yourself. Instead of thinking, "Why am I so small?" How can I get bigger? What things can I do differently? When you ask the right questions, your brain gives you the answers to those questions. When you answer the wrong questions, you get the wrong answers that'll keep you small. So be
Right.
very conscious of your thoughts. And I know in India, that's a big thing. That's why meditating is so important. Be
Hmm.
very conscious of what you're thinking. Most people fail because of their attitude and their thought patterns, not because of their abilities and skills. And they're like,
Hmm.
I don't get it. I'm so smart. I'm so good, and I have nothing because of the skills you're missing, not the
Right.
skills you have. And that's what a person needs to do to be successful. And I can help them to do that by teaching them how to learn faster
Yeah.
so they can learn those new skills and still do the old skills better. And there's no way to do that without learning faster and understanding more.
Amazing. I'm so happy the way you condensed your years of experience into this short nutshell of an advice. Thank you so much, Howard. For those of you watching us, please make
Thank
sure
you.
you check out berglearning.com. That's where you'll find all the amazing resources that Howard and his team have put together for us to become faster readers and faster learners. Thank you once again, Howard,
And
for being on this.
successful. We
Yeah.
need smart people. Look at the news. Do you think there's too many smart people in the world? No one thinks that. We need you to be smart. We need you to be successful so you can help more people. And if we all do the best we can do, we can change some of the bad things going on. There's more good people than bad people. But unless you tap into your
Hmm.
abilities, they're winning right now, and they
Right.
shouldn't be. We can change that through intelligence and understanding instead of anger. And that's what I'm trying to teach people how to do that so we can have a better world.
Wow. Thank you so much, Howard, for coming on Experts on Purpose.
Thank you for having me.